I'd like to call the Board of Adjustments meeting to order. And could we introduce ourselves, starting with Ryan?
Brian Baker.
Donna Cook.
Kathy Slagle.
Frank Lamia.
And we have copy of the minutes from the September 19 meeting. If you'll look them over and wait for a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor, do you want a roll call vote on that? Go ahead.
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved with one abstention. Tonight we are looking at consideration of BOA 2213, public hearing to consider the request of the applicant Brittany Ponesti with Frameworks, acting on behalf of the owner Tyler Niemeyer, for a 15-foot variance to the street side setback requirements for property zoned R2, medium density, single family residential district. And the property is approximately 3,100 acres and is located at 508 Patland Drive. We have introduction, thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is Casey Potts. And for context, 508 Patland Drive is an R2 property surrounded by R2 properties. And the right picture is an aerial. The applicant, Tyler Preston Niemeyer, is requesting a 15-foot variance to the street side setback located at the southeast corner of Patland Drive and Allison Court. The property is zoned R2 medium density single family residential district. The recorded plat reflects a 35-foot side street setback, which is more stringent than the 20-foot side street setback requirement in the zoning ordinance. And this discrepancy is the reason the applicant is requesting a 15-foot side street setback variance. As shown on this slide, you can see the 1977 recorded plat and its setbacks, as well as the requested setbacks with the application today. The subject property is Lot 6 of the Pines subdivision. It depicts 35-foot front setback along all rights-of-way, as depicted below. The plat has 12 lots that depict these setbacks on 2 frontages, and those are all highlighted on the slide. However, there are existing structures that do not comply with the 35-foot platted street side setback. There are 6 properties that only comply with the 20-foot zoning ordinance requirement. And we kind of highlighted those 6 properties on that map. So there were 12 total that had double frontages of 35-foot setbacks. And of those 12, 6 of them do not comply with that ordinance. So we kind of annotated, they have a variation of 20 to 25 feet of distance between the building property line and the building edge. So again, here's the aerial of the property. You can see the carport to the right side of the screen where my mouse is. And it's shown here on the requested setback sketch as well as the existing survey. You can see that the principal structure extends to a carport on both pictures. We did notice a discrepancy between the 2 surveys. The existing 2013 survey shows that the carport is 20.3 feet from the property line. However, in the requested setback, documentation that was provided, you can kind of see the 20-foot setback is shown at a different location in relation to the carport. So we just wanted to point that out. We're just discussing the 20-foot building setback line, and that would be what they would be held to in terms of building any construction on site. So here's a street view from Google, and it can show the elevation of the structure. So, as discussed, the 15-foot variance request is compliant with the street side setback requirements shown in the zoning ordinance. And we kind of clipped the table and included it in your packet as well as the slideshow. You can see that yellow box is the R2 requirements. So the application request is compliant with the zoning ordinance, so staff recommends approval of BOA 2213, 508 Patland Drive, a request for a 15-foot side street setback variance. Doesn't seem the applicant is present, but staff would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do we know what kind of addition they're doing, what it is?
It's verbally, sorry, get audio on. Verbally, it was an addition to the house, so I'll go here, and that's why we kind of pulled the street view. This would be an enclosed portion of the house, so leaving at least the stance was leaving the carport open. It creates an odd space here
Yeah.
with a covered front porch. And no, we do not have clarification for that. So that, especially here, this would extend out based on that picture. So the edge of the house would be extending forward to the 20-foot mark. So that would be along this line coming out to match the front of the carport. And then coming this way, I believe, yeah, somewhere in about here. But no, they did not provide any elevations or any architectural details for what that may look like. Of course, at building footprint, you know, that's always helpful to understand what's being proposed, but again, it runs with the land, so they would be able to, if granted this, and I want to reemphasize, this is not a survey. This is the home designer that drew this, put a 20-foot setback here. It's actually back here. So if granted, they would be able to fill in this area where lot 6 is located. What we in the department looking when we get a building permit would ensure they're not filling out any more here. They would be obviously allowed to keep the walkway, breezeway, but would not be able to fill in between the two buildings. So this is kind of as Casey said, there's 6 in this neighborhood under that plat that's already there. This makes the 7th because they actually have a building that extends past that 35-foot, as we were kind of talking before the meeting, and I think, Ron, you were while I was on vacation, pointed out, if this came to us without any other information, without any precedent being created, it would be a recommendation to deny because there's platted setbacks of 35 feet. It was done in 1977 before the current form of our ordinance. I don't believe they had the 20-foot at that time. I can't say exactly when that came around. So we kind of then look at, okay, what's the other variables? And when we started looking at this rest of this neighborhood, there's kind of a precedent being set. I don't have any history of those. We haven't had any building permits in the last 7 years. Unlike when we deal with the fruit and nut, that lots that have been there since 1911, we assume there's some things that have been nonconformities when we implemented the zoning ordinance. We had a zoning ordinance here, but when they were built, and what was the zoning ordinance at the time is a set of variables that takes a really long time to figure out for each case, and we haven't went to that extent on these because, frankly, before 1999, our record's a little bit of a mess until we get those scanned in, which hopefully is happening next week. They're coming to pick those up. So that's, you know, there was unfortunately, I think there was and there's no record of a variance on this site. So the carport being 20 foot is an interpretation of a street side setback, but it being closer to the road than the house, I don't see without a variance how that was allowed. But this kind of brings the house in line with the carport and matching that 20 foot. So very good question, and I'm really proud of you for looking at it in that detail because we debate that so many times, like what do we do in this situation? There's a clear answer, but it's obvious history hasn't exactly fit within that clear answer. So, and there's different flavors of these. On plat, sometimes it says, well, for instance, there's no rear setback or side setback. So you have to apply current zoning to that, even if it did change. Sometimes we see plats that just say per Fairhope zoning ordinance. Well, that goes with the time, so I can't tell you exactly the logic between some of those other six, but, you know, what we looked at is, are they able to use this like the neighbors, or like the adjacent property owners? And that's where we landed.
Did any of the other 6 ever get a variance to do any of that, or did they just build it at some point in time in the past?
Like I said, there's, this was approved in 77. It's between 77 and 99, our records are mixed up and really, really laborious to try to figure out. We didn't dig there. We didn't see anything in the documents that we have digitized
Okay.
on any variance, but
Or any of the other, I meant for the other 6 properties. not
yes,
these.
there's nothing that we found.
Okay.
I can tell you, we haven't done a full, and that's something we're kind of prepared to say. If we need to go back and look at that, you know, it's gonna take us a while, but we're more than willing to do that.
In the last 23 years.
Yeah, that we can, you know, quickly find. Again, everything's on paper, so even the ones in the last 23 years are going back and looking through file cabinets. So that's what will really help us out. When we digitize, we can keyword search Patland and see if there's ever any variance. Until we get to that point, it's just a very laborious process. So with kind of the precedent already on this property, it was, you know, it might have been a different question if there's already, you know, that they're not going to the 20-foot, but that was the logic, and we're happy to answer any other questions.
Nobody's objected to this in the neighborhood?
We haven't received any comments whatsoever confirmed. I was on vacation for part of last week, so just wanted to confirm.
If this property didn't have the 35-foot, would the front be, which side? Because it's almost a square, just, like, would it comply with the 20, 35 and 25?
So, and Ryan's full of good questions, not put me on the spot. I think he knows, we struggle with what the front is too. We saw that last month, that, you know, the interpretation, the front's obviously not on the alley. So some of the amendments we want to make, sometimes there's an obvious frontage, and you'll see a lot of ordinances put that, leaves it up to us to interpret some things on what the front is. But based on dimensions alone, this is 120 by 109, so the frontage is on Patland.
Okay.
So it's the,
So we'd be.
Even though the front door looks like it's on that Allison Court?
yes, that's correct. So our ordinance defines the frontage of a lot, not anything to do with the building. So it's the narrowest side of the lot. And on corners, that can sometimes be tricky, especially those that were originally designed to be the same setback on each side. It's which way do you build? And there's an obvious frontage some people use where the mailbox is located, but that can change and gets confusing. So, but yes, this would, if this interpreted as a street side of 20 feet, then it's in the appropriate location.
Okay. Okay.
The applicant is not here to make a presentation, and there doesn't seem to be a public. So I will open and close the public hearing. And is there any more discussion on the board? And do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as noted here.
A second?
Second.
And roll call vote, Ryan?
Aye.
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 The request for the 15-foot side street setback variance has been approved.
And if I may, just in case I believe the home designer was out of state, And they, just in case they get a chance to watch this, before we receive a permit set, we will need a revised site plan that matches that actual 20-foot plan. So before they get too far in design, just want to make a note of that.
Okay.
Thank y'all so
Mhm.
much.
Any old business?
We do have 2 cases
Oh.
next month. We'll have a meeting.
November, is it 17?
There's 2 incomplete from last month. Okay. 1 case next month.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? What do you have there, Frank? The 17th, is it?
It's the 21st.
Oh, 21st of November?
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
I second.
Did we have a motion?
So moved.
Oh.
Somebody just actually.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned.
Who made that motion? Just for Alex. You made the.
I made the motion, she made the second, or the other way around, whichever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Donna made it.
Brian made the motion and Donna seconded it.
We did it in auto order, but.
Yeah. I thought you were making the motion.